There's, there's something beneficial also to be said for having a pre-approval, from a hard money lender or a private money lender that now, hey, I can go shopping, I can find a deal. Or if I've got something where it's time sensitive and the house it's up for foreclosure sale, in 2 weeks, I don't have to deal with a banker. I can go and I can get a great deal on this property because I can get the money to get it done because I've been pre-approved. So how much does it cost to get pre-approved? I mean, what's the process? What are some of the benefits? How easy is it to get pre-approved with a private lender?
It's very easy, and Hampton's right. Get your pre-approval, because once you have, it's really not with us a pre-approval. If you're approved, you're approved, meaning if Milton's approved, which he is, and he heads out of here today and finds a house that he wants to purchase. Little old lady, grass is this tall, mailbox is stuffed. Milton will offer on that property. He knows what it's worth, and he can sign the contract right there. He doesn't have to call me now. He's experienced. He can just send me that contract, and our money's behind it. So I would say get pre-approved just in case you need it. You can pull it right out of your back pocket. Milton knows he can call me. I'll send him a pre-approval, proof of funds. It comes right to his phone. He can show the homeowner or the other realtor, I'm approved. And Milton knows our money's behind him. So I think first step, we can work it if you don't do it that way. But once you get approved with us, it's an approval. We'll still do title and appraisal just to check everything, but our money will fund the deal. We have never not funded a deal that we've approved unless the investor wants to back out, and then we'll help them do that. But we don't back out. We might change some terms around to be creative about it, but once you're approved, you're approved. And I think that's the first step on that. And we just need W-2, an asset statement, and we're going to soft pull credit report. We approved Milton's guy in literally less than 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't take us long.
If you had any horror stories or learning experiences, for investors out there, a deal, gone bad, either you came into it, later, or you had an investor that had contractor issues or went over budget, or it was a lot more they thought of, what went wrong? And what was the final outcome? I don't have to bring up, anything bad, but it's good for one investors to know it's not always roses and rainbows and unicorns. It's sometimes not always that pretty.
It is definitely not now. We're proud to say in 9 years, we've never had a new investor. We had experienced investors lose money before. Nobody knew, because we're doing the due diligence in the background, and we've been doing it for 20 years. Not one new investor has ever lost money.
Gosh.
Because we'll help you through the deal, and you're not going to see everything. Now, these two guys, they can take more risk. They're older. They have more money, more assets. So my experienced guys will take a risk. I'll tell them if I don't see it, but I'm not going to tell Hampton or Milton I'm not doing the loan. And then they're big boys. If they lose money, they lose money. We've only had 2 or 3 of those, to be honest. But we had a guy lose $50,000. He's a multimillionaire. He took out $1 million loan. I said, man, your payment's $8,000 a month. And then I put in an email, because that's a lot of money. And he lost $50,000. Yeah. Now on the next deal, he slings big. He made $250,000. So that made up for the 50.
Yeah, of course. What's really interesting is, so our first podcast, when we were in your office, and, we would hear you on the phone, and you probably would hear us, kind of, trying to figure out how to do a podcast. The really interesting thing is one of the first conversations we had about having our podcast, and you can go go to our podcast at, on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or X, and look for the podcast, I Lost 80 Grand So You Don't Have To. And that was one of the very first podcasts we shot, was about some of the losses. And it's really interesting how sometimes you're having conversations with people, and if someone goes in your office, you have the whiteboard, and you're kind of helping people navigate the math through the whiteboard and being able to talk them through the math, because that's the most important dynamic. When we first started sitting down, when you taught one of the classes at Flip Savvy, you were walking people through the math. Like, okay, look, this is what, an ARV is. This is what after repair value is. This is where you need to be in order to qualify with us. Understanding things fundamentally. And I think that's what sets you guys apart. We often considered SurePoint, and I don't know, I think you had told me this, SurePoint is like the first name in hard money when it comes to Louisville.
Thank you.
It was like the first name because why? Because here's the reason why. Like you would go to other hard money people and then they would say, are you approved of SurePoint? No. Okay, then I won't do business with you. And that's the way it was for years. And people would have to go to SurePoint. And that's how I, heard about you guys in the beginning was that you guys had to pre-approve people before you went with. Before you can go with anybody else. And so, and I think that's because you guys were the standard. It was like, there's other hard money people out there, but they all were like, have you did a deal with SurePoint? Yeah. And so I really thought that was super cool to be able to be that